In this video, I am going to analyze an excerpt from writing assignment, and it's a small paragraph, and it reads, foreign people usually relate Mexico to mariachi tacos in Cancun, although the country has more to offer. For example, Guanajuato. The place is covered with magic that mixes legacy and history with modern life. This small paragraph has two sentences. The first one is foreign people usually relate Mexico to mariachi tacos in Cancun, although the country has more to offer, for example, Guanajuato. This is a complex sentence, and a complex sentence is a sentence that has one main clause and one dependent clause. In this case, it has a main clause and a subordinating clause, which would be the dependent clause. First, the main clause, which is foreign people usually relate Mexico to mariachi, tacos, and Cancun. In this sentence, we can find some phrases. The first one is foreign people, which is a noun phrase and it's functioning as the subject. And then we have usually relate, which is a verb phrase because it has an adverb and then the verb. Here, this is important because usually is an adverb of frequency. An adverb of frequency is an adverb that indicates the regularity of how often an action is performed. In this case, well, it's usually, and this adverb is modifying relate. And also here, relate, as we can see, is in the simple present. And the simple present is one of the verb tenses of the English language. And simple present indicates generally truths, like something that is generally accepted, and also routines. And then we also have to mariachi, tacos, and Cancun, which is a prepositional phrase. Now let's identify each part of speech in this clause. First, we have foreign, which can be used as a noun, but in this case is an adjective. Then we have people, which is noun, usually is the adverb of frequency. Relate is the verb. Mexico is a noun, a proper noun. And then we have to, which is a preposition. Then mariachi is a noun, again a proper noun. Tacos, a noun, common noun. And is a conjunction. And Cancun. Cancun is also a proper noun. So here we can see that the prepositional phrase to mariachi, tacos, and Cancun has three objects. Which are mariachi, tacos, and also Cancun. Okay, so then we have the subordinating clause, which reads, although the country has more to offer, for example, Guanajuato. And the phrases that we can find in this clause are the country, which is a noun phrase, to offer, that it's it's actually an infinitive, but we can say that it's an infinitive phrase. And also, for example, that here we could say that it's like a prepositional phrase because it has for, like an individual word for would be a preposition, but it's actually like an adverbial phrase. And now each individual word. Although it's a conjunction, and This is a subordinating conjunction. This kind of conjunctions, well, introduces a subordinating clause, which is this one. Then the it's an article, it's like an adjective because it's modifying a noun. Country is a noun. Has is the verb. It's also in the simple present. More, this word it has different classifications according to the context, and in this case would be like an adverb because then we have to offer, which is an infinitive, and then we could say that more is modifying the infinitive. So yes, more it's like an adverb. Then it's, for example, that was the adverbial phrase, but if we take each individual word, for would be like a preposition, an example, a noun, and then Guanajuato, a noun, a proper noun. Okay, and then of this paragraph, the second sentence reads, the place is covered with magic that mixes legacy and history with modern life. And this is a complex sentence, so it has a main clause and also a dependent clause. But in this case, the dependent clause is not a subordinating clause, as it was in the previous sentence. In this sentence, the dependent clause is a relative clause. So the main clause is the place is covered with magic. And here, phrases we have the place, which is a noun clause, and then is covered. And this would be the verb phrase, and here is necessary to highlight this because it's the passive voice. And passive voice refers to when the subject of the verb is not performing the action. For example, here, the place is covered. Is covered is the action, but the place, which is the subject, is not performing the action, is receiving the action. And then it is formed by auxiliary verb, which is the verb to be, and then past participle. And here is so important to point out that the passive voice can be in any verb tense. The verb to be, I mean the auxiliary, will change according to the verb tense that we want to express. And the other phrase that we have is with magic, which is a prepositional phrase. And now each individual word. The is an article or an adjective, kind of. Place is a noun. And is, I already say, is like the auxiliary, the verb to be. And covered is a past participle that is similar to an adjective, but yeah, past participle. With is a preposition and magic is a noun. And then the relative clause of this sentence. Here, a relative clause is a clause that functions as an adjective because a relative clause kind of modifies the nouns. So, for example, in the previous clause, we could see that it ended with magic. So that mixes legacy and history with modern life, which is the relative clause, is modifying magic because it's the closest noun. And it's so important to point out that a relative clause starts with a relative pronoun. Okay, so the phrases that we have in this clause are with modern life, which is a prepositional phrase, and then modern life, which is a noun phrase that is functioning as the object of the preposition with. But we will see that in a moment. And each individual word, well, that, as I already mentioned, is a relative pronoun. Mixes is the verb. It's also in the simple present. Legacy is a noun and is a conjunction. History is also a noun. And note how and is a conjunction, but it's not connecting two clauses. In this case, it's connecting to nouns, which are direct objects of the verb mixes. Then we have with, which is a preposition. Modern is an adjective modifying the noun life. And then, yes, modern life is the noun phrase that is the object of the preposition with. And that would be the analysis of this excerpt from the writing assignment, and also of some of the most important grammatical structures that can be found in this excerpt.